Good morning, everyone. We welcome you to our Sunday morning roundtable discussion on this beautiful, sunny day after a foot of snow last night. It's beautiful. We're all here. So today is Sunday, February 18th, 2018. We are recording from the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent, Plainfield, New Jersey, the United States of America. And this morning, Florence will lead us in our morning prayer.
Mrs. Eddy's prayer given at the Massachusetts Metaphysical College. O my God, I offer as a consecrated gift upon thine altar a heart dedicated to thy service, lips speaking only words of charity, love, and truth, thoughts striving to be only the true thoughts of the mind of God. Help me to endure unto the end, strong in the faith, powerful in the truth, all the influence that I can bring to bear, all the force of tongue or pen that is mine, I offer in thy service. May heaven help, consecrate, and accept.
Thank you. Miscellaneous writing, Mary Baker Eddy. We today in this classroom are enough to convert the world if we are of one mind, for then the whole world will feel the influence of this mind, as when the earth was without form, and mind spake, and form appeared. The subject today is soul. Golden text, Psalm 23. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And Linda, we'll start with the watching.
Okay. Watch number 158. Watch lest, in endeavoring to realize that you are a channel for good to all mankind, you neglect to establish the fact that all men are channels for good to you. Jesus said that those that did the will of his Father were his mother, sister, and brother, implying that his demonstration of God's presence and power included the realization that others could minister to him spiritually, since that is the spiritual significance of mother. End quote.
Thank you. I felt it paramount this morning. Today we're going to talk about what true security is, because we all, as working scientists, the right ability from God to keep ourselves above the Adam dream, which is all over the news, and into the kingdom of heaven. So this lesson on soul points to this, because what is the last citation in Science and Health? Man is what? Yes, when governed by God. When governed by what?
Soul.
Soul. Man is harmonious when governed by soul. When we are in the right mind, we are harmonious. And harmonious excludes any kind of terror attacks, accidents, all these other things. We are harmonious when governed by soul. And in the lesson, in Proverbs, it says, whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely and shall be quiet from fear of evil. And so what is the requirement there? To be quiet and
Hearken.
Hearken unto God. And Jeremy, in the forum, what was your definition of righteousness?
Purity of heart and rectitude of life, conformity of heart and life to the divine law, the active and passive obedience of Christ, by which the law of God is fulfilled, and also from dominion within. Right thinking and feeling, knowledge of the truth, and love devoid of fear.
Thank you. One of the most beautiful passages in the Bible in Isaiah, it's one to work with often, and that's the one that Jeremy wrote about, was citation 9 in the Bible. Carol, you want to read it?
And the work of righteousness shall be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and assurance forever. And my people shall dwell in a peaceable habitation, and in sure dwellings, and in quiet resting places.
Thank you. That is the promise from God as we are righteous. And we have the story in the Bible of Abigail, who, because of her righteousness, she avoided what could have been a terrible situation. She was listening to the Father, hearkening unto God, and because she did so, she was protected, as well as everyone else. In Science and Health, page 19, if living in disobedience to Him, meaning God, we ought to what? Does anyone know the rest of that?
Feel no security.
Thank you. Feel no security. Was that Day?
Yes.
Even though, do you know the rest of that? We should feel no security, although what? God is
good.
God is good. And then, page 232. Security for the claims of harmonious and eternal being is what?
Found only in soul.
Is found only in, not soul, but it's not in the lesson, so don't look.
Oh.
Is found only in divine science. Security, this should be part of your arsenal. Security for the claims of being, of the harmonious, eternal claims of being, is found only in divine science. It doesn't say sometimes, occasionally, it says only. Only. That's your only security. All other things fail. We can debate until we're blue in the face whether we should not have guns, whether we should have guns, whether we should elect a new president or not, or whatever else they're fighting about right now. That's not where the security is. It's only in divine science. And then, page 367, also not in the lesson, the confidence inspired by science lies in the fact that what? I'm tricking you all today.
Truth is real.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Truth is real, and what else? And error?
Is unreal.
Error is unreal. Error is a what?
Coward.
Error is a coward before
Truth.
Thank you. Remember these. Now, we started with that first watching point because we must understand that ultimately divine science teaches you there is nothing to fear ever. Why?
There is no fear in love.
Right?
Because God is all.
Yes, because God is all. There's nothing else. What you are fearing is an illusion. It is conjured up in your mind because you've watched so many horrible horror movies or whatever else.
Or read too much propaganda.
Yes, too much stuff. And we can prove it when we are in science. We can stay out of this Adam dream. And you will find it is a coward before truth. So now I'm going to tell you a beautiful story that my dear, dear Parson sent to me Thursday, the day before the dream happened in Florida. You can find it on YouTube. It's about a man. His name is Terry Mize, M-I-Z-E. I'm sure he's some kind of a evangelist minister. And he was in Mexico, helping, preaching, turning people to the Christ. And he was driving somewhere, and he picked up a man, mainly because he wanted to share the gospel with him. Yeah, it was a hitchhiker, right, hitchhiker. So anyway, turned out the man had a gun. He was a bad man. I don't know what he was, a convict or something. Anyway, after he got in the car, he held the gun to Terry's head and said, "I'm going to kill you." And Terry said, well, first his fear jumped up to his throat, but then he caught hold of it, and he rebuked the fear within him. He rebuked the fear and said, "You are not going to take hold of me. I am a child of God, and I will not be afraid." And then he addressed the man and said, "I am a child of God. By the authority of Christ Jesus, I rebuke you. You cannot kill me." He said this to the guy with the gun at his head. So the man kept getting angrier and angrier at Terry as they drove along, because Terry kept rebuking him, and Terry was no longer afraid. He knew that error is a coward before the truth, as Mrs. Eddy tells us. So finally the man said, "Pull over to the side of the road," and they're speaking all this in Spanish. So Terry pulls over, and the guy says, "Get out." And they're near a cornfield, so they walk, he said they walk quite some ways through a cornfield. And then the man told him to take off all his clothes. He wanted his ring, his watch, his car keys, everything like that. And so Terry said he stripped down to his underpants and his socks, and the man took everything that he had and started walking. I skipped a very important point.
Yeah, before that.
I'm sorry, we have to backtrack. I skipped a very important point. Before that happened,
He pulled over and got out of the car, and the man shot him 5 times.
At point-blank range. Now, Terry said he does not know what happened. He heard the shots. He saw one shot hit the dirt and the dust, meaning there were bullets, but he was not harmed. Again, he kept saying, "You cannot kill me because I am a child of God." So he said he has no explanation as to how he was protected from those 5 bullets. That was a major point. Okay, so after that, the guy takes him off into the cornfield, takes all his things. He starts walking back to the car, and Terry, this righteous indignation rises up in him, and he thought to God, "This man can no longer steal my things as he can kill me. That's just not right. Why should he rob me? I'm only doing good. I was only going to try to help him." He appeals to God in this way. So the next thing Terry does is he starts yelling to the guy. He said, come back, I want to talk to you." And so the man with the gun and all his Terry's things walks back, says, "Well, what do you have to say?" And so Terry says to him, "I am a child of God. You cannot rob me of what is rightfully mine." So the man ends up giving him back his clothes, his keys, everything, and they go back to the car, and the man wants to drive the car, and Terry said, "Absolutely not. This is my car. You come with me." So they're driving, and then Terry says to him that the man says to him, "You know what? I like you." And so Terry says to him, "Well, if you get rid of your gun, you can come home with me." He says there's a Spanish expression, "My home is your home." So they end up, and I don't know, I don't think it said whether the man did go home with him. And Terry had 2 babies at home, one that was only 10 days old in his life. But he says he ends up fulfilling his mission in telling the man about Christ. Now, do we hear about this? I would never have heard about it if Parsons hadn't shared it to me. And there are other examples, and we have talked about them. There was a woman we talked about in Georgia, I believe she was in Atlanta, who confronted someone who
she was in Atlanta.
She was in Atlanta?
Yes.
Yes. You want to speak to that?
It's when this guy came to shoot, and she kept praying, and she talked to the guy. I don't remember exactly what she told him, but at least that you don't need to do this. But she did it so calmly. Came through the narration of it. She spoke so calmly, as if I guess God was speaking through her, and the guy calmed down, and the whole thing was diffused. He didn't shoot. It prevented a whole school shooting that would have taken place.
Yes.
Yes, she told him that he was loved.
Yeah, but she quickly went to prayer. That's the point that was so, great to me. She quickly started to pray when the guy came. So.
Yes, right away. But she was in the spirit. She didn't have to conjure it up. This guy, Terry, was in the spirit. I mean, after initially being afraid. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think she was going through some terrible things herself in her life. So she had been, reading her Bible and really getting close to God. So that's the preparation that we've talked about before. It's not something she just did. She had been in this closeness with God. So when this happened quickly, she turned to God, and here it was.
Thank you.
Oh, I remember that. The man had like 2,000 bullets ready to go.
Yeah.
In a school.
Yeah.
And there was also the young boy who was released from his kidnapper. He was just singing gospel music the whole time, and the kidnapper did end up releasing him.
Oh, I think I remember that too. He was in a car or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
He was in a car. Mm-hmm.
Well, when I first got here, in one of these first roundtables I came to, you talked about, I think it was in Rwanda or Uganda, something like that. A family got taken by gunmen, and the man just kept telling the truth and told them no when they were going to kill him, and then they didn't kill him.
They didn't kill him. That was something else I think Parsons has sent to YouTube. There are a lot of these experiences, but those do not get the publicized as this tragedy. But this is why we nurture our spiritual sense, as the lesson also brings out. It is your spiritual sense which will save you, because that's what spiritual intuitions reveal, what constitutes and perpetuates harmony, enabling one to do good but not evil. Soul has infinite resources with which to bless mankind, and happiness would be more readily attained and would be more secure in our keeping if sought in soul. Higher enjoyments alone can satisfy the cravings of immortal man. We cannot circumscribe happiness within the limits of personal sense. The senses confer no real enjoyment. Now, I don't want you to think these examples are far-fetched for you. They're not. As a scientist, we should be praying, and these experiences shouldn't even come to us. They should not even come to us. But you can rest assured, if ever anything did happen, you would have this authority of Christ with you, if you were working and using the science. Perhaps we are in the latter days now, and this science must be used. And this man, Terry, he was a scientist. How could you deny what he did? Let's call it whatever you want. He later told of an interesting healing of a baby. He was out in Guatemala, and there was a baby, very, very ill, a tiny baby, lungs filled and all of this. And the doctor there had done all that he could, nothing more to do. And they gave the baby to Terry to pray for it, which he did, but the baby died. But Terry did not give up. He prayed, even though the doctor said, forget it, the baby is dead. D-E-A-D, dead. Terry prayed until dawn. He prayed for 12 hours. He held the baby in his arms. He lifted the baby up to God and said, God, I know this is not your plan. At the end of the 12 hours, the baby started breathing again. And the baby is now a grown person and mentality experience. But one thing interesting that he said toward the end of his praying, and that was what?
He spoke to the devil, and he said, I'm not leaving. I'm not quitting. You leave. Told the devil to leave, that he was not going to quit. And it was shortly after that the baby started breathing.
He said you must never leave any situation without rebuking and getting rid of the devil. Now, we had quite a conversation yesterday about the son of Belial, and if you missed it, you should listen to it. Because I know as Christian scientists, and I know as we started this talk, we're knowing that there is no thing as evil. There is nothing as evil. But it appears to be, doesn't it? And it needs to be rebuked, or Jesus wouldn't have rebuked it. We wouldn't be talking about casting out devils. What this man said is true. So if you're ever in any kind of untoward situation, you keep at it until you feel that presence of the devil is gone. That's how our watches work. You keep praying, you keep knowing the allness of God until you feel there's not a trace of any negativity or fear. The carnal mind is gone. That's our work. That's what heals. That's what brings in the sunlight of truth and tremendous healing. Now, you know what doctors say. If somebody's dead for 12 hours, not bringing them back. Not in perfect health. She did.
Lazarus was gone 4 days.
Yes. 4 days. And that, too, proved that, because it surpassed all the so-called medical or human beliefs that tell you it's impossible. And I was reading or heard somewhere where they said that the Jewish religion believe, that the spirit is gone after 3 days or something, so there's no way it could come back. They think that's why Jesus waited 4 days to just prove that was false. And, I once had an experience, I've told about it before, but to a lesser degree. We had a very strong class. It was a reading room time. We were all together in the reading room. This was many years ago. And Mrs. Evans was speaking very forcefully about some things. And anyway, that next day I had gone out with both of my children, and when I came home, I heard that there were burglars in the house. I knew. Who else could it be? So I sent my son over to the neighbors, and my daughter was just a baby. I went running up the stairs with Laura on my hip, and I rebuked two great big guys with pillowcases that were taking all my stuff. And my words were not about Jesus Christ. They were a little different. But it was with the authority of Christ that I spoke. It had to have been, because those guys who were both bigger than I was, they dropped everything and they ran out of the house. Afterwards, I was shaking like a leaf, but while it was going on, I felt no fear. And it was because I was in that spirit. And I was mad. How dare they come into my house and take my things? Who do they think they are, for heaven's sakes? If they need anything, God will supply. And then after that, when Mrs. Evans came over, she said that I was to pray, and I did, and I never forgot this lesson, to pray for them, to know that they were the child of God, that they could want nothing that I had, and to put a blessing they could only be better for coming into my home. And that healed me of any anger or resentment. And then she also said that this was a star in my crown of rejoicing, and to put it up there on my crown, and to always remember that instance when God had taken care of me. The authority of Christ had ruled. Now, you imbibe this. I'm not just talking to people that I want to just go off and then get all upset over the political situation. You take this in. You know this is the truth. You know it is the truth for you and for everyone else. God is our security. Soul. We are harmonious when we are governed by Him and by nothing else. Don't get into any of this fighting over what's going to be the solution, the human solution. There are no human solutions. God is the solution. And you live it and you teach it and share it with as many people as possible. That was that man's safety. He was just trying to help that guy. Now, if he had gotten scared and saw, see, that goes back to our watching point. If he had gotten scared and saw that guy as some evil person, he would have been shot. But he didn't. He did not. He rebuked the error in the man, but he knew he too was a child of God. And the guy said, I like you.
One of the things that I learned coming here about human solutions is that I realized in my life I kept doing human solutions, but then I wasn't addressing the real problem. And so you can come up with these clever human solutions, but it covers up what really needs to be. It's the separation from God.
It does.
Right. Every human so-called solution deals only with what? Yeah, it only deals with the effect. It never gets to the cause. Until you get to the cause, you will replace one effect with another effect. And you'll go round and round and round in circles for hundreds or thousands of years, dealing with effect until you stop and get to the cause.
I like what Mrs. Eddy talks about taking the serpent. Unless you really solve it through Christ, the truth, you haven't taken it up. You haven't made the serpent the rod to lean on. It's still the effect. So,
thank you.
I had a question.
Go ahead, Michael.
I'm sure like everyone probably that's dealing with people that are secular minded, how would you even begin to share something? I mean, obviously everything you're saying is correct, but I struggle to try to, find any comforting words for somebody that says things like, this stuff is happening all the time. It could happen to any one of us. It could happen to any one of our kids. And I don't know if you had any suggestions or anyone had any suggestions.
Tell them about this YouTube. Tell them about the woman in Atlanta. Tell them about the power of prayer. Tell them the things I've just told you. Tell them the man, he picked up this guy. He was certainly secular. His whole purpose was to heal him. He ended up having to rebuke the error. You share with what's real and meaningful to you, not lecture them, but share.
But God's love protects us.
Thank you.
And also, we can all put on our spiritual armor in the morning. And I think just knowing that, start your day with God and put on your spiritual armor, I think people would feel that naturally. They'd have an inkling of what that means.
Absolutely. We have had some discussions on your spiritual armor to put it on. And what does Mrs. Eddy say about life, truth, and love, or a law of what?
Annihilation. Everything unlike them.
Thank you. Against everything unlike themselves. That means when you are living life, truth, and love, when you haven't been dishonest to your neighbor or your business person, when you haven't been unloving to the man on the street, when you have been expressing life and the joy of life and the being positive and happy, when you've been expressing God's qualities, these situations cannot even approach you. They won't. We are mental beings, and if you have a steel in you and you have been doing right, they won't come to you. Now, this man invited this guy into his car because he wanted to help him, and he was protected. We do use wisdom, all right? I mean, unless you're ready for something, we learned you don't pick up hitchhikers. You don't leave your car unlocked. We use wisdom. We don't go to the worst part of town and walk around there at 1 a.m. You use common sense wisdom. Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. But if for some reason you were to find yourself in some situation and you were in that spirit, God would protect you. And there's so many instances of it.
I had an experience this week which is very minor compared to the ones you were sharing. But skiing, I was riding the chairlift, and this man had gotten on with me. He started telling me his tale of woe, which was he'd separated from his wife and was very heartbroken, and then moved to a ski town and was having a lot of fun, and now his wife wants to get back together again, and he doesn't know what to do. So I said, well, I've got the solution for you, and the solution is God. And he got very irate and told me what an atheist he was. And I said, well, I understand that because I was one also. And I said to him, what is the one thing that you know that nobody's ever told you? I was thinking of what I've been reading in Herbert Eustace's book. So he said death. And I said, well, no. What about the fact that you exist? Did anybody tell you that? Do you know that without anybody having to tell you that? Because that's what Eustace explains. This is what God is. And he was absolutely stunned, which I understand because first time I read it, I was a little stunned myself. And it was, I have no idea what the outcome is, and but it was just, I was very happy to be able to have shared that with them, and know that all will be well, I guess.
Well, that's a wonderful, simple illustration, and thank you, Mike, and you weren't afraid to say the truth. So often, and I used to be too, I don't want to rock the boat, I didn't want to mention God to anybody. People need it, and I'm finding more and more now when I do bring it up, they might be shocked initially, but then they're grateful for it, because there is no other answer. Look around. What answers are we finding? Nothing.
I think Mike's own conviction now, allows him to say it, even though the man said, I'm atheist. I think before I would shut up when he's, if you're not that convinced in God yourself now.
Yes. Yes, so that's exactly right. Thank you. And as we grow in this science, we do become stronger in speaking it. And if you're not feeling strong, maybe you shouldn't speak, but get where you are, and you can. And, Carol gave that testimony a few weeks ago, walking up a staircase where someone had been...
Yeah, there was a man going down the stairs as I was walking up at my office, and I'd never seen him before. I didn't know who he was, and so I just said good morning and just kept on going. And I heard just a few minutes later, that someone in that same staircase had been mugged, and he didn't bother me. I wondered, I asked the practitioner, why didn't he mug me? Why didn't he take my pocketbook? And she said it's because you were living the Christ.
It's a protection, my friends. Now, I'm going to mention something else. This also Parthen sent me. He sent me 2 movie reviews. One is on the 1517 to Paris. Does anyone know what that's about?
Those are the 3 American young men that stopped a guy who was going to shoot up a bunch of people on the train, a terrorist attack.
Yes.
Yeah.
They stopped a terrorist attack. Another example of stopping a terrorist attack. In Paris, they free Americans. So the movie has been made by Clint Eastwood. The three people who play the three Americans were actually the actual Americans who did it, which was kind of cool. But anyway, this was something, and I believe it's brought out in the movie, but it's interesting. The three men, all of them in their 20s, met as kids in a Christian school. The mothers of Scarlatos and Stone are single moms who are devout Christians. Prior to going to the school, the two boys went to public school where their mothers were lectured about putting their boys on ADD medication for merely acting like young boys, being bored in school and looking out the window, etc. One of the mothers said that she told the teacher, "My God is bigger than your statistics." And then, evidently, she took them out of that school and put them in a Christian school. So these men had a Christian background, which gave them the guts and the authority of Christ to do what they did. Almost in any case where these things have happened, you will find a working Christian. So especially now when all of this stuff is going on in the news, and that's why we call it propaganda, because it's not the truth. It isn't. Not if you're going to tell me that the truth is the Christ, the living Christ. This other stuff is just the human mind, blah, blah, blah. And that's why, too, in our roundtables and Bible studies, we stick to metaphysics. We could have another platform and talk and debate politics for hours if you would like. And I probably have some very strong feelings myself. But we're not going to do that here. Metaphysics is the answer.
Politics is not.
No. Gary?
Politics is the result of whether you're thinking right or not.
Yes.
So, Michael, this is the answer to your question. There's there's a lot of answers to your question, but Mike's example on the chairlift is really an example of taking control of your environment. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you, as the image and likeness of God, are in charge. So whatever comes to you, you are in charge of the entire situation. God speaks through you. When Moses went to God and said, well, wait a minute, I can't go to Pharaoh. I can't speak eloquently. I can't do this. I can't do that. God said, don't worry. I will give you the words to speak. So whenever you are in whatever you're doing, wherever you are, if you are a working Christian, God will give you the words for every situation.
Thank you.
And now, more and more, too, when you say you're a Christian Scientist, that means you are a practitioner because you should be practicing this science. That means when someone comes to you with any kind of a problem, when it comes into your experience, don't just think, oh, I've got to call a practitioner to take care of this. Why don't you take care of it? We talked about it a few weeks ago. If you've left class, you're supposed to heal something. That was in Mrs. Eddy's class. Well, you're not the healer anyway. God is. And frankly, Florence and I have been getting so busy that we could use the help. So take it on, for heaven's sakes. See what you can do to heal. Suzanne told me this week she did just that with wonderful results. God is the healer, and as you do that, you're going to grow more, you're going to turn more to your books and your science, and you will be a healer too. Now, another book review, 50 Shades of Freed, I don't know, but anyway, the theme, we've talked about this before, 50 Shades of Grey, which is basically a porn movie. And this review says, the theme of 50 Shades movies and books from which they are taken is that modern American women have a great life when they marry a billionaire who is violent, jealous, and likes to torture them. My, isn't that a lovely, a lovely movie and a lovely book? And yet people are flocking to see it and to read it and filling their minds up with this trash. It's been on a bestseller list. So you wonder why we have trouble in our country. And women have a standard to fulfill, which is now why I will have Linda read what she wrote about the virtuous woman on our forum.
All right, it was from Proverbs 31, and I've always liked it, but I think before I came to Plainfield, I made it human and thought I was going to do it with my own personal good human will, and then I'd be liked by people. But now I understand it's much more deep, more powerful. It's really living God. So what I did was I took the qualities out and then thought about what they might mean to me. So I'll be reading from the Bible first before I add a comment. Quote, Bible, King James. Her price is far above rubies. Being close to God is the pearl of great price. Bible. Safely trust in her. Honesty and consistency is important. Bible. No need of spoil. We don't waste what God gives us. Bible. Do good and not evil. What is my motive? Bible. All the days of her life. Not giving in or giving up no matter what. Bible. Worketh willingly with her hands. Willingness to work. Bible. She riseth also while it is yet night, ready to work for God at all times. Bible. And strengtheneth her arms, waiting on God to renew our strength. Bible. Her candle goeth not out by night, works to keep oil of inspiration. Bible. She reacheth forth her hands to the needy, unself-giving. Bible. She is not afraid, works on ridding fear from thought. Bible. Her husband is known in the gates, a life that is a witness to God. Bible. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, puts forth the best work. Bible. Strength and honor are her clothing, takes care of what we have. Bible. She shall rejoice in time to come, to keep joy and gratitude. Bible. Openeth mouth with wisdom, obedience to God's precepts. Bible. And in her tongue is the law of kindness. What I say reflects my thoughts. Bible. Looketh well to the ways of her household, watches thought. Bible. Eateth not the bread of idleness, alert to apathy. And finally, Bible. Feareth the Lord, waiting on God.
Thank you. This is what we fill our thoughts with. And, now there's all this, the Me Too movement, and I'm certainly for people speaking out if they've been sexually harassed in any way. But remember, that it was Suzanne talking about your armor. When you've got your armor on, that kind of thought can't even approach you. And if it tries, it'll be very sorry. It will be very sorry. This, again, is our defense. But if you're reading 50 shades of gray, filling your thought up with that garbage, well, you're a sitting duck for a lot of this stuff. I always give people the definition of angel in the glossary. The complete protection for women and for men. And I'll have Gary now. This is Watches, Prayers, and Arguments, where Mrs. Eddy, because it is right that we all express the fatherhood and motherhood of God, all the qualities of God. Abigail was kind and tender and loving, as well as what?
Strong and assertive, wise.
Strong, assertive, wise. She expressed the male and the female qualities, as we all should.
Could I just throw something in quick, please? In Martha Wilcox, on page 283, she starts with 7 women portrayed in scriptures, which I think goes along greatly with this virtuous woman that Linda wrote about.
Thank you. This is in Watches, Prayers, and Arguments, page 92.
This is my support, that the male and female natures are equally expressed, coexistent in me. This is the way that I exist, and is the reason I never lack. It is because I am of the nature of infinite completeness. There is never anything in my experience in which the male and female qualities are not infinitely at one, supporting each other. It is because my spiritual inspiration is perfectly balanced with scientific understanding. Because my joy is perfectly balanced with courage. And because my love is perfectly balanced with strength. My tender emotional nature is perfectly balanced with thought, reason, and understanding. Therefore, I am a state of perfect protection, perfect substance, and I am supported by my own infinity. I am the consciousness of infinity. I am the presence of substance, because there is no unsupported idea in me. My manhood takes care of my womanhood, defends, protects, and supports her. My joy is defended and protected by my courage. My love is protected and defended by my understanding, by the strength of my scientific understanding, which is omnipotence. I am never undefended, and my womanhood cherishes my manhood. My tender affection cherishes my scientific understanding and unfolds love to it, takes care of it, watches over it with love, and gives it every opportunity to unfold and demonstrate itself in perfect harmony, unity, equality, and unfoldment. So my nature is complete.
That is how we deal with all of this. And that brings out great beauty and peace, and not hatred toward the opposite sex, or fighting, or trying to be something you are not. You be what God made you, whatever that is. Embracing and reflecting all his qualities. I'm not sure what feminism even means. I'm not quite sure yet. Maybe someday I'll understand it, but I don't right now. So you be what God made you in all its beauty, and that will be wonderful. And it will also protect you from anything that would try to do you harm, male or female. So I will end today with Miscellaneous Writings 228. To be a great man or woman, to have a name whose odor fills the world with its fragrance, is to bear with patience the buffetings of envy or malice, even while seeking to raise those barren natures to a capacity for a higher life. We should look with pitying eye on the momentary success of all villainies, on mad ambition and low revenge. This will bring us also to look on a kind, true, and just person, faithful to conscience, and honest beyond reproach, as the only suitable fabric out of which to weave an existence fit for earth and heaven. Thank you all for joining us today.
Amen.
We'll have a powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.